Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn, otherwise known as AkiRoseVoke on social media, and we're going to talk about planning a cosplay today. Intro. So you decided you want to start cosplaying. You decided on which character you want to cosplay. So what's the next step? Well, the next step simply is to plan what you're going to do. And if you're unsure where to start, planning is also a great way to kind of line your ducks up in a row so you are set up for success. And so I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how I plan cosplays. Planning cosplays is one of my most favorite parts of cosplay, and it's great because it is entirely free. Except maybe your time. But you can spend as much time as you want planning a cosplay without having to actually spend any money on cosplay. And it's also great because if you make out all these plans, then when you're ready to make a character, you can just go, 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 go. And if you don't end up making it, well, then you just wasted, 2 days or a week or a month making something, and you'll just, will look at it longingly and be like, I still love you. I promise. So the character we are planning today is going to be a costume that I've already made, which is Teresa from Claymore. Woohoo! Biggest tip that I'm going to have for any person who's planning a cosplay is research. Oh my god, you want to have everything you can on this character. And if you are doing your own take on it as well, or an OC design, research is also really helpful too because it can give you inspiration in ways that you might have thought of on your own. So as part of the first step of research, I highly suggest that you try and find sources from the anime and the manga. Oftentimes there will be slight variations between the anime and manga versions, so it's easier if you have both to reference to and you can kind of pick and choose what you think is most accurate. A lot of times too, whether artists realize this or not, there'll be kind of like little discrepancies between certain parts of costumes, especially the back. The back is often neglected and it's hard to find reference pictures, especially if your character is not the main character. So just scour through the anime and the manga, and while you're watching, you can just pause it, click, take a picture with your phone if it's on the TV or a computer, or if you're watching it on your phone, screenshot if you're able to. Excuse me. And that way you'll have a little photo of what you're referencing in that exact moment. And it might be good because, like I said, sometimes you can't find these reference pictures of things like the back or the side or a certain angle of things if they are like, it's not like a major moment. Also, if you are doing things on your phone, I would recommend having an album dedicated to that character and the reference pictures for that costume. That way you can always find everything in one place and go through it. And same with the manga. If you are reading online or on the physical format, you can always just snap a pic or take a screenshot of a reference that something might be helpful to you. Once you have all your images in a place, you can start to break down pieces of the costume. Categories that I like to divide everything into is sewing, thermoplastics and foam work, molding and casting, wig, special effects makeup and makeup/contacts. I put that in the same category just so I don't make sure I don't forget it, because that's something that can be easily forgotten. Prop work, and then other. Not all costumes will include everything in these categories, and some may rely more on one category than the other, but this is just a basic way to organize everything. So this way it helps you to break down your material list for later. I would also research the different types of materials you can use for a cosplay. For example, if you're sewing, I would look into the different fabric options you can use for something, as well as different sewing techniques to achieve the desired look you want. Personally, I like to start with sewing. It is my most comfortable category that I work out of. I think it's my strongest suit. And so when I'm looking into sewing stuff, I want to research patterns as well as the fabric that I'm going to use. Personally, I make my own patterns now. However, when I was first starting out cosplaying, I used to use commercial patterns and alter them. There's plenty of videos and tutorials on how to alter patterns online. There's also tutorials if you want to learn how to make patterns as well. However, it's something that I would do once you are more comfortable with sewing in general. Another option too, especially if you aren't comfortable with sewing, is you can alter clothing. So I would then research into finding clothing, whether at your local thrift store, your local Kmart, Walmart clothing store, or as well as online if you can find clothing that is similar to the costume. As well as another option always is to buy a pre-made costume and then spice it up. So with the case of Teresa, our example, when you look at her outfit, there really isn't much to do sewing wise. So for her costume, I just bought a white scuba knit because it is stretchy and it is opaque, so I wouldn't have to worry about anything showing through, as well as it would be comfortable enough for me to wear all day. There's also the neck cover, which is black, and for that I actually ended up using leather because I had it on hand already and it just worked out. And the final detail was a little bit of silver embroidery, which was done on the black neck piece. And like I said before with the material list, at this point I would start writing down and keeping track of what you're going to need. Another good thing about the material list is then you can start to make tasks for yourself, and you can kind of break down what you're going to do for each part of the cosplay. So let's break down Teresa. So the first task I'm going to have is to sew the bodice together. And so for that I'd pattern sew my bodice and then I can check it off. Another task I would have in the sewing category would be sew my pants. Done. Sew the neck piece. Done. And so that is my sewing category, and all my tasks are finished. On to the next category with armor making. So my first thing would be to pattern everything. Check. Then after that I would start assembling the pieces with the Worbla and the foam. Check. And I usually break that down into like assemble pauldron, assemble chest piece, assemble hip piece, assemble foot pieces, and that way too I can keep track of everything, and once I have everything there I can be like check. And after I have assembled all my pieces, I would then go to priming and sanding, priming, and then I could check that off, and then I would paint it, check. And then also too I would make a task, for example like buy wig or buy contacts by X date, so that way I would make sure that everything gets here in time and I'm not forgetting anything till the last minute. And I have a calendar back here that I usually use to organize all my cosplay content, things I need to get stuff done by. I have nothing on it right now because it's quarantine. Overall, when planning a costume, the more details you plan out and you can kind of like isolate, the better it will be and the easier it will be later on to make it. Let's add 3 yards of white neoprene spandex. And then also check if you have a fabric stash of fabric that you've collected, whether it's remnants from old cosplays or it's just fabric that you've picked up over the years. I would also check there too. The category we're going to move into is foam smithing / thermoplastics. Kind of overall armor work. For me, this category is a little, I'm not that great, but you know, we're gonna move on. So for Teresa, we ended up For Teresa, we ended up using. For Teresa, I ended up using a Worbla foam combination. I sandwiched thin 2mm foam between Worbla, and I used that to create the outer shell of the pauldrons, as well as the bracers and the hip plates, as well as the shoe decoration. The reason I chose Worbla was because I wanted to be very durable and I wanted to be able to sand it to get a very smooth finish. However, looking back, I wish I used foam instead because it would have been lighter and it would have been able to have a smoother finish than I can get with the Worbla. I kind of was a little bit rushed because I procrastinated, so I kind of I didn't get the exact finish I want, but it was definitely worth doing because I learned a lot about working with thermoplastics. Worbla is heavier, but the reason I chose it is because it's more durable, and I knew that I was going to be taking this costume to Katsucon, so I wanted to be able to be transported in a suitcase with no problems and have no damage and just not have to worry about anything. I wanted to get there and it'd be in one piece, just slap it on and wear it out. I did have some trouble the day of the convention, I won't lie, where the attachments that I had on the inside of the pauldrons broke. Go figure. And oh god, that was a mess. And I had to scramble to get it to attach. In the end, my friends helped me out, sweet beans they are, and we were able to get everything fine for the photo shoot. So some of the benefits between working with Worbla compared to foam is Worbla, like I said, is more durable. It's also easy because there's no glue involved. It's just contact with the heat on Worbla, and it sticks to itself. However, with foam, you have to work with a lot of glues and adhesives. You know, most commonly contact cement. However, if you're like me in a small apartment, you don't want to be doing that, so you try and use like hot glue or super glues, which don't always work so well. However, working with foam, it's cheaper and it's lightweight, and for the most part, it's pretty flexible. So if you have a piece that maybe needs to go around your torso, I would highly suggest doing that in foam rather than Worbla. There's plenty of videos on the differences between foam and Worbla, and plenty of blog posts if you look them up if you're interested. Except research which material might be best for you. So once I've built my pieces out of Worbla, I'm going to prime them, and for that I use gesso. Gesso is one of those things too that's nice, is that once you buy it, you can use it for multiple projects. It's not going to be like a one-time thing, so in the long run, it's not that expensive. You can buy ones as cheap as $7 a jar to $12 a jar, so it wouldn't hurt your budget. And then also, of course, as sandpaper, that's something I would highly suggest just having in your stockpile at all times anyway, because you'll always end up using it. To make it silver, I used spray paint, so add chrome silver spray paint to the list. Another good thing about silver spray paint and gold spray paint, you will always use them for costumes. I would highly suggest just buying 1 or 2 cans of them, always having them on hand, because there is always an instance where you'll need gold or silver spray paint. So next, moving on to makeup and hair. Once again, Teresa has the most minimal makeup I've ever worn. Just basically like foundation, a really natural eye look, throw on some lashes, pop in your contacts, and you're good to go. So I don't really have to add anything. The only thing I'm gonna add to my list for the contacts, because I did have to buy my contacts for her. But the wig for Teresa, luckily for me, she has a pretty simple wig. I just bought an Arta wig. We're gonna add that to the list. And I didn't style it, just threw it on. Gucci. So next on the list is props. Now I personally did not make my prop. It was made for me by my lovely friend. I'm gonna link his Instagram down below or here. Ooh, check him out if you need a prop. He's your guy. Here, you know what? Let me grab it. So this is. So this is. So it does not fit in the frame. So this is the prop that I have for Teresa. The last category is other. And I put this in its own category because this is where I use the category for like things like shoes or any undergarments you might need. I've had multiple costumes where I need to buy specific undergarments for the costume or other various things. Like for example, for Medusa, I had to buy tights to make my tattoos, or you can buy like temporary tattoos that will go under other. Once you have your material list, you can kind of start to get a rough estimate of your budget and what you are willing to spend on this cosplay. Some things you might have to swap out. For example, if you really want to use Worbla, you might not be able to get into such an expensive wig. Which is I personally suggest to always stockpile supplies if you are able to. I know not everyone is able to, and it can be hard sometimes, but if you just start slowly collecting, to have like a little foam pile, a little Worbla pile, a little paint collection, things that you know you will end up using. Like I said, silver paint is a good one, gold paint is a good one, as well as just making sure you have like lots of glues on hand. Sandpaper is always good to keep as well. What else? Contacts on hand. If you have every contact of the rainbow, you will never need to buy contacts for a character. You can just pop them in, you know. I restock my contacts about once a year, and I try and make sure that I have all the characters that I need for I have all the colors I need for all the characters that I'm going to do that year. Another tip I have for materials is to have a board like I do, and I'll take a picture for you guys. And I have things on there that are samples of fabric types, foam thicknesses, any reference drawings or reference pictures, so that way I can always have something to look at while I'm working on stuff. Another reason why I do this is because a lot of times, especially when I'm buying foam, reading the numbers of 4 millimeters and having to like Google it on like what milliliters means in inches and having to like convert it, and then like looking at it on the ruler and I can't really tell. It's easier if I just have the samples here, so that way I can feel them in my hand and be like, this will work, or this will not work. Same with fabric. It's always better to have swatches of fabric. Might not necessarily need the color, but fabric types, so that way you can just kind of feel it and know and be like, this is what I want. Yes. So here is the finished product of Teresa, if you guys are interested. Here is where we have culminated all of our skills of sewing, foam smithing / thermoplastics, wig, molding and casting, makeup and effects / contacts, prop making, other. If you guys have any questions or anything or want to reach out, feel free to reach out with me in the comments below or through Instagram or Twitter. If you like this video and the tips that I have, then give it a like. And be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with the content. I post new videos every other Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.